Skiddly diddly doo. Hey everyone, how's it going? It is either real Randy Chavez coming at you with my friend DaLesha Nicole, who I guess I know you've had a couple TikToks, but I really mostly know you from Facebook, military friends,
hmm
and all that. Do you still
Yeah.
do TikTok?
Not really. I've just been really busy. I'm also not the best with technology. Like my best friend is, but I'm just not good with pressing buttons and editing stuff. But hopefully one day I'll get into it. I actually really want to get into podcasts because of a specific event that happened not too long ago with this panel I was
Mhm.
chosen to spoke on for Women's History Month, and it was complete a dumpster fire, and it really inspired me to want to start a podcast and just talk about stupid military bullshit. Like,
Oh, all right. That is what we are all about. We're all about that right here. Okay, so we got what, '07 that you had joined, right? It was the
yes,
world's greatest Air Force. That was
yeah,
maybe not the height of the Iraq War, but that was things were pretty well underway at that point.
yeah. It was popping back then. I actually went to Baghdad in 2008, January 2008,
Oh, so
and
you weren't
yeah.
even in like a year before there's like we shipping you off.
Yep. I don't remember exactly what happened. I think somebody else was supposed to go, but they
Short notice.
had sleep apnea and required a CPAP, and because at the time the power wasn't constant and they couldn't ensure that his machine wouldn't cut off in the middle of the night, I went and I found out like in December that I was leaving in January, and I was like, okay, this is how we're doing it. It was it was wild. I had a great time. I actually didn't want to leave, to be honest.
Well, how long was it
I
for?
It was only 4 months because back then
Okay.
we weren't on the 6 month deployment rotation yet, so it was only 4 months.
Oh, that's the sweet spot
Um,
right there.
it really was. It was just long enough to see what I needed to see,
Yeah.
but I did want to stay. I did try to extend, but it was not approved. I think only one other person got approved to extend out there because like their wife was out there at the time.
Yeah.
But it sounds really corny, but being in Iraq during that time really made me appreciate being a 222 a lot more than it did being stateside, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you get to see like where the stuff is going. Oh, this is where it ends up when
Yes.
it goes to Germany and then Kuwait and then finally Iraq.
hmm
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
it was pretty cool to see all that.
what was the base like at that time? Like I know the electricity was iffy. Did you have places to do laundry? Did you have a washing machine? Did you have civilians for that? What was
um,
the morale tent like?
so when we were in Baghdad, we had at the time we were still in tents, and I think only like NCOs had like the trailers to live in, and they had to share a space.
Yeah.
But there was a we had a trailer that had washers and dryers in it, and we had the trailers for the bathrooms. But the thing that sucked for me being deployed, there's always places for dudes to go take a shit, but not a lot for females. And we had just one Cadillac. And I remember one day I was walking to the shower, and the whole entire spot where it was gone. I was like, what? So I was like, guess I'm not showering today. But yeah, we had like a morale tent that had like Xboxes in it, a TV, like futons where you can watch
Oh
movies,
yeah.
you could rent DVDs. Um, we had a pretty decent chow hall. I thought it was pretty decent chow hall. What else did we have out there? Bunch of smoke pits, of course. But there wasn't too much going on out there at the time. We had like an MWR tent that had computers that everyone would use to like call back home or hop on MySpace at the time and send messages to people. But I felt like a dinosaur.
I can just picture like mortars going off in the background, someone trying to update the top five friends, but
Basically, that's what it was. Because oh no, you're fine. Oh, my husband's in here. Because you were in Afghanistan. What year was that? 2009. You guys had a morale tent too, right? That had the computers for everyone. Yeah.
yeah, we didn't have an Xbox. We didn't have like we there was like a DVD player there that thankfully nobody stole. and thankfully somebody had like the foresight to go bring Lord of the Rings DVDs. Like I
Ugh.
don't know like why they would like bring those without the knowledge that there was anyway. So we watched
Yeah,
those.
I had a great time. That's when I got to watch a bunch of things that I don't think I would have gotten the chance to watch back stateside because I wouldn't be forced to. Like really old UFC DVDs that someone left. And when I say old, I mean like when the fighters were just big burly guys and they were fish hooking each other. Like
Oh,
it was the coolest stuff. I was like, oh, where has this been all my life? I watched all of The Sopranos while I was over there. It was a good time. It was great. It was a little sketchy, but good times.
yeah.
Good
The
times.
Bright. I had Bright Sergeant Bright on. Remember him?
Yes.
Yeah,
Mhm.
he said he would save like Dexter for deployments, and he would save like Walking Dead, Breaking Bad, and all. I was like, oh yeah, the good stuff.
It just it really brings everyone together too. I feel like, well, maybe not so much for me, uh, but I feel like everyone on deployments becomes a little bit closer just because you're forced to be together. You don't have anything else to do but to
Yeah.
work, watch movies, go to the gym, um, stuff like that. It was a weird time for me. My entire military experience from start to finish was horseshit. So
So then you get back, and so yeah, I was so like, how I wonder how well you were doing your job. I guess in Iraq, you're doing everything, right? You're doing cargo, you're doing ramp, you're doing packs, like everything.
Um, I primarily did PAX because I was only at McGuire for a hot minute
Yeah,
before I was sent over there. So they threw me into PAX because I guess it was something I was somewhat familiar with. And then I moved from PAX to the baggage yard, which is doing all of the baggage movement. And then every now and then you would kind of fill in, go help ramp, move stuff or whatever. But you're kind of everywhere, but everybody really did have their own section to be in. And I think I only got thrown over at baggage because I'm super organized and they really weren't. So they tossed me over there to just kind of help
yeah,
organize things. I don't know. But it was pretty cool though. Coming back was fun. It was a little weird though, because everybody has families and stuff. You get off the bus and your families are there to welcome you. I didn't have that. It's just me. So
yeah,
that was like the only awkward part. So of course the rest of us just got together and went to the dorms and just like drank our faces off for like the next week.
yeah,
Shenanigans.
yeah.
I do
I
miss
if
that.
I could do 4 months deployments, I would have done that like all the time. Like come back and party for a month and
Yeah,
do whatever. I would have been.
that's what I
That would,
wanted to do. I just wanted to keep going, and unfortunately for me, I never deployed again. I got tasked for a deployment to the deed in like 2010 or 11, and then
yeah.
I got canceled literally like days before because they'd
Ah,
given up my spot to a reservist. And I was like, what the crap, man? And it's
yeah,
crazy
that would
because
piss
my
me off.
husband deploys every 25 seconds, it feels like. I'm like, how do we have the same job? And you're always
Yeah,
gone, but I'm not. Terrible. It's awful.
different bands, different or whatever. That sucks.
it
You got to
was
make
really
friends with people
stupid.
at the UDM. Be like, hey, buy him some
I
whiskey.
tried.
But you did.
I fucking tried, man. I tried networking my ass off. It did not work there. I don't know what was up at the Cereal Fest at the time, but mm-mm,
That's
mm-mm. That place
so.
gave me
I know after
PTSD.
you left there, you had a bunch of places that you travel because your husband's still in.
Still in. He's a first
Yeah.
sergeant. We're actually in the process of moving right now. So
Yo. Where are you going back to?
we are going to San Antonio next.
Okay, cool. All right. I remember,
Yeah.
I think contacting you in 2018 or
I was
2019.
in Vegas.
Yeah, because that's when
Yeah.
the Naruto run into the Area 51 thing was going on,
Yes. Oh, I
and I
wanted to
had
go
this
so bad.
plan. Oh God, I wanted to. Well, I don't want to do that. I wanted to be like mountainside with a bunch of George Foreman grills and drinking and just
Yes, and
doing all the
seeing
good
what's
stuff.
going on. Oh, God,
Um,
I would love that. So many
what did
shenanigans happen in Vegas.
what wound up happening? Because you were still there when that happened. What did?
So I think a couple of people showed up and they might have been arrested. I think somebody tried to go in, but they didn't get very far. I mean, it's out in the middle of the desert. It was just not a smart idea to begin with. Because I remember that was happening around the same time as like that Josh battle, and then that actually did pop off, and like hundreds of Joshes showed up to that location, and like a little kid won the fight. That was way cooler. I wish I could have seen that one in person. Like
Yeah, I would have,
that was
if I was named Josh, like that kid would have been the first one I took out. Could have just walked it. Josh is a pretty nice, I guess.
I would have knocked him out. And it's funny, my husband's name is Josh, and I was like, you should have gone. But he was deployed. So
Ah, it's
he's
rough.
always deployed, all the time.
You
Ugh.
could get that deployment money though. Got to get that.
Not when you have kids.
Oh,
Ew.
yeah, that's true. That's true.
They eat everything. They eat all your money. All of
I've,
it.
I've heard this is part of the reason why I will not have
Don't do it.
kids.
Don't do it. Don't
He's
do it.
gonna watch this one day
Do
and be like,
not.
"Hey, Mom, why you say don't do it?"
Don't do it. Just just borrow someone else's.
Isn't that fun though to go and show them like, "Hey, there's a Pizza Planet truck. Oh, hey, there's a pizza." Isn't that fun to go watch Disney movies with them and go and see?
Yes. I just came back from Disney with two of the three of my kids, and that was wild, first of all, because I'm not good with crowds, but it was manageable. But being able to go somewhere I've always wanted to go and to take them with me, that's that's fun. And that's part of the reason I'm excited to go back to Texas. Like I grew up in Texas, but I left when I graduated high school and never went back. So I'm kind of excited to like show my kids, hey, like I used to go here for vacations. I went to Houston and got to see rocket ships and all this space stuff. So like I'm looking forward to that part. And I feel like it's a lot more fun because they're all teenagers. One's a
Yeah.
grown up. So like it's a lot cooler now than if they were smaller.
Do they still have the Ripley's Believe It or Not horror museum at the Riverwalk?
I hope they do.
Yeah, did take them there,
I
scare
hope
the crap
so.
out of them.
I freaking hope so. I think I took my youngest to a Ripley's in Ocean City, Maryland once. I would love to go there. I just love stuff like that. I like being outside. I'm a
Yeah,
adventure type person. Not
I
too
like
much
horror.
outside, like no camping, but I like doing things that are outside of my home. That's why I liked Vegas so much. There was always something to do. It's not just the strip. Everybody's like, oh yeah, let's go to the strip. I didn't do that. It's good for people watching, but not for like hanging out. It's just too expensive
Yeah.
and a little too much commotion at times. I know once, I don't know if he was probably still at McGuire when you were there. Stone, I don't know,
Stop.
maybe he wasn't.
I don't think so. Or if he was, I
Jordan,
just
he
didn't see
might have
him.
gone to Little Rock by then, but he's from Vegas. We're
Yeah.
hanging out with him, just like having a chill time at this bar, and all of a sudden, a bunch of cops go running by. I guess somebody with a gun was doing something wild in it. I'm like, Vegas is doing a little
Was
too
that the
much.
time of the actual shooting
Of
in
the
Vegas?
shooting, no, it was after that.
Oh,
It
okay.
was probably a year later
Oh,
because I think the shooting happened not too long after I got there. Actually,
oh
that
damn.
was crazy. Like that was absolutely insane
That-
that something like that happened there. Like
Did you guys have like, or I guess did your husband have like all calls about that? Like, oh, hey, this is on the red list now. You can't go here because of shootings. Like, was there any banned places in
well,
Vegas that you couldn't go?
I think there are places that are banned that are probably like into like sex work and stuff like that. But for the most part, all this stuff like that shooting happened just like in a big open field. So I don't know if there's a way to like limit somebody from going to like a large empty spot because it was just set up for that concert and that was it. But I think after you move there and you kind of talk to people, you learn areas to stay away from.
That makes
So I
sense.
don't. It's not too bad. You don't really have to have a lot of conversations about that because it's not. It's weird because Vegas didn't feel unsafe to me. It's one of the few places I did live where I felt completely comfortable just going and hanging out at night. Um, and in Germany too. Like I never felt so safe in my life. But you can kind of tell when you're somewhere you shouldn't be, if that makes sense. Like
Yeah,
it's
you
common
feel it.
sense. Vegas is kind of a common sense area. Like it's no surprise if something happens somewhere because you can tell.
Yeah. I feel you on that.
So bad.
I Do they have that sex talk with people like because I feel like we never had that in New Jersey. Like we never had like a meeting or like a slideshow saying like, oh, don't do prostitutes. Like I know like the G spot like didn't have necessarily prostitutes. Maybe it did. I don't know.
It
But I feel
probably
like
did.
when I was in Germany in like 2016, I was just there on vacation. I wasn't like they're stationed there, but
Yeah.
Ninja and everyone were just like, oh yeah, here's the sex shops. Like they immediately knew where they were.
Yeah. That's crazy. I was there in I left in 2016. I hate that me and Ninja crossed paths there, but weren't like, which is why I'm happy he's here now. But yeah, in Germany, I don't think we had that where I was, because Bengal was in the middle of nowhere. There's nothing out there.
Yeah.
And I remember at McGuire, there was a lot of places that we weren't allowed to go because of prostitution. One of them, oh my gosh, I think it got closed down in like 2009 and they turned it into like a regular bar. Oh my god, what was the name of that place?
Kelly's
Oh, it was
Bar
so
seems to be
sketchy.
the.
It was so sketchy.
Wait, what town was it in? Was it in like New
I can't
Egypt?
remember
Was
the name of it. And it was always like, it was definitely, I believe it was still in Wrightstown. Was it? And they turned it into like a burger place because it was closed for so long because nobody went there anymore because of the prostitution. I'm sure that place is wild now. It probably looks so different from when I was there. I left in 2013 and never looked back. I do miss some aspects of New Jersey though. I do miss a lot of the food places. I miss the proximity to like DC and New York and stuff to do in like Virginia. Like my mom's family's from Maryland. I do miss that, but the base and that squadron at the time, I don't miss. Mm-mm.
I understand that. I
They
had
they gave me the worst anxiety of my life.
I feel you on the anxiety. Mostly it wasn't from anything like crazy. It wasn't from anything that probably would affect me. It was like, oh hey, let me go for a run, like to Wawa, I'll get a muscle milk and then I'll run back to base. It was like the when I did that, I one time saw I it was probably a bear with mange because it didn't really have hair, but it was like large and like huge. And it was eating like this deer, like
Yeah,
this deer, like it was some roadkill. I noticed that there's just roadkill on the way to Wawa, and then on the way back, I noticed that half of
yeah,
it was like gone, and there was like this thing, and the bear was walking on hind legs. Again, it had made so it looked like a really big homeless person, and I
yeah.
didn't know what it was at the point. I like the mange bear didn't come to me, so I'm starting to like Google this. I tell like the cops, like the um that are like on base, like checking IDs. I was like, hey, something just like I don't know what I just saw, and they're like, like, are you okay? Like, was there anyone? I was like, there was like a deer there that's like half gone now, and then I go into like dorm room 2620, and I start like trying to put this shit into Google, and then the first thing that comes up is the New Jersey Devil, and I was like, so I was like,
Yes, the New Jersey Devil.
so
I
I didn't,
miss that stuff.
so like I didn't like do that like ever again. Like my entire time there, I never made that run again. Even like running
What?
on
Oh,
base
that's
is
the
like,
best. Oh my gosh. When you just said 2620, all the memories just over
came flooding
my
back
brain
to you.
hole. I, oh my god, that place was. I remember probably one of my first nights there because when I first got there, when you went to the dorm office, they had like a label printer and they would print out your name and they stick this on your door so people
Yeah.
know that you live there. And for the longest time, I didn't put it on my door because I don't like people knowing where I live. Just
Yeah.
like I don't think they do it anymore, but like in base housing, they make you put a placard in front of your house that has your rank and your name.
Uh-huh.
Never done that. That's ridiculous. I don't need
Yeah.
anybody to know where I live. And the one day I decided to pop it up there, I'm just chilling in my room trying to sleep. I think I've probably been there for maybe a month, maybe two. I'm brand new, and I hear this commotion coming down the hallway, and it to me sounds like drunk people just stumbling. And I'm like, I don't have to worry about that. I don't know anybody here besides the kid I came here with from tech school. And then I hear the feet stop in front of my door, and then I can hear them trying to read my name, and I was like, oh no, what's happening? What's going on? And then I just hear banging, and they're like, hey, are you new? Open the door. I was like, what? And then I hear another voice, and it's the kid from tech school I came with. He was like, open the door. They came and got me too. And I was like, who is they? And I open it. They're like, hey, here's stuff. Let's go in the van. Like, what are we doing? And my buddy Duham was like, let's just go get in the van. And I was like, okay. Sketchy things are about to happen. So we go down and we get in this van, and it's one of those, not like a creeper, I have candy van, but like the old school dad van where the seats in the back recline, there was like a TV in there and it had curtains on the windows, that kind of
Yeah.
van. So we get in. Mind you, all the gauges are broken. This guy doesn't know if he's about to run out of gas, if the tank is full. No idea.
Oh my
And
God.
I'm just like, where are we going? And he was like, don't worry about it. It's going to be great. I was like, is this what being a 2T2 is? Is it this? Am I in it now? Is this it? We drive around, and at the time, it wasn't a joint base yet. It was just McGuire Air Force Base and then Fort Dix. So there was a gate in the middle that was closed, and we had no shot bet or anything on our side. He's like, I think I need gas. I don't know. The gauge is broken. So we go to try to get gas. The gate's locked. And in order to get to Fort Dix, you have to go around a very long way. And he's like, I don't know if we're going to make it. So I'm thinking, I'm in this van with these people I don't know. They've kidnapped me and my friend, and we're on an adventure. We finally make it to Fort Dix. Didn't get gas, by the way. Bypassed that. End up at this house. There's a bonfire. Everybody's drinking. I'm just like, what is this? And it was like the best time ever. And I was like, oh, I kind of like this. And that was like my intro to like 2T2 life, was just being kidnapped by a stranger and taken to a house party. And I love that. That was probably my best memory living in that dorm. Getting kidnapped.
I have, well, the first time that there was any big party, I think it was Cinco de Mayo. I come back from where and working packs, we're on 12s, and I get to this I get up to my room. I think I'm in like room 309 or 311, something like that. I'm on like the third floor, and there's this person running up and down the halls in a Big Bird costume, like with yelling, "I killed Sirius Black! I killed Sirius Black!" And I was like, "What the fudge is going on?" Like I wanted to sleep. I wanted and they and then like it was just too loud. Like you couldn't sleep. And then I go into like the day room. I was like, "All right, what's going on?" And like the Big Bird is playing Pong. I was like, "This is wild." It was raining outside, and there's forget across the street where there's like a subway, like the firehouse, like the subway.
Mm-hmm.
So there's like a
Yes.
little, there's the street, and then there's the lawn of the subway, but then there's like a
Mm-hmm.
maybe like a 6 foot divot thing that looks like it could be a drain,
Mm-hmm.
and it completely filled up with water, and like
Yes.
people were like swimming in it, and they were just trying. I didn't know if they were like, are they okay? Because everyone was just schlossed. It was stupid. It was awesome. And then the first like party I went to that wasn't in the dorms was, I don't even know where it was. I don't know who
That
took me there or how I got
time.
back. But
I
I meet
missed that.
I meet Saley. You
I
remember Saley, right?
missed that so much.
Do you remember Saley, right?
I think
Meow.
my Wi-Fi is being really bad.
Can you
It might
still
be.
hear me?
Let me test this here real quick. Let's see. Is
Can you
it
still hear me over there?
my Wi-Fi?
Oh,
Let's
I
see.
hear you. I hear you talking about the Wi-Fi. Oh, she gone. All right, we may have to reconnect here. I'll tell her about the Saley situation. So for everyone else that's here, I will be doing a VV video later. I don't think I'll go live for that just because, I mean, there is a lot of information to cover. So I might actually have to do 2 videos. The last video I did was like 30 minutes long. Oh, hang on. Wait a second.
I think that was my Wi-Fi.
Oh, okay. Yes.
I think it was
That was probably much clearer.
Yeah. I miss the dorm shenanigans. It was man, that was crazy times. What good times. I try to like to describe it to people and they think I'm crazy when I tell them what it's like to just be in the military and to be a
Yeah.
too.
I think the other house party I went to.
I love it.
Did you remember Saley? The Asian dude?
Yes.
Okay. So I meet him at the
He's
house
actually
party.
really close to where I live now.
Ah, I love it. Yeah, I love him. He's awesome. So we go to this house party with a couple random people. They were on like other shift, like I didn't know. And he tells me his name's Trevor. I was like, oh, okay. Hey, Trevor. And then like, you know, we're drinking, we're doing whatever. And then like we go on to like the same shift the next day. I think we finally switched from 12s to, you know, like 8.5, whatever. And then I forget his name, bald dude's name. I'm friends with him on Facebook. Srini, Sergeant Srini goes like, hey,
yes.
yeah. He's like, you go tell Saley, you know, something about like a mission that we're doing. I was like, Saley, and he's like, yeah, and then Saley walks in. I was like, and it's him, and I was like, he told me his name was Trevor, and then like Srini like loses shit. He's like, you told him your name was Trevor? He's like, yeah, bro, we were drunk last night. It's funny. I love him. That was
I miss the
my
house parties. There was good times. I remember. I think I didn't ruin a house party, but I ruined it for one person because they tried to sneak in, and it would have been bad news for all of us if that person would have stayed there.
why.
It was a house party. A bunch of us from the 3 of us hanging out partying, and there was a girl there, and I couldn't quite put my finger on where I knew her from. And I was like, something is off about this girl here, and I feel like she's not supposed to be here. And so she's like floating around trying to get drinks from people, like hanging all over some airmen. And I'm just like, be here. And it clicked in my brain. And I went up to her. I said, like, I know where I know you from. And she looks at me because like she could tell that I figured it out. She was like, maybe you've just seen me around base, like for the summer hire program. And I was like,
Oh god, I lost you again. I'm not gonna lie, it froze on like a real funny picture.
yeah, it is. Oh no.
Okay, wait, all right.
It was
Where did you know her from?
commander's daughter. That's right.
Whose daughter?
She was the commander's daughter. Our commander
Oh,
at the time.
what?
Yeah.
How old was she?
They had the same face. That's where I knew her face from.
How old was
like
she?
16 or 17.
Oh no!
A child. Yes.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Oh.
And she was like, don't say anything. And I was like, are you crazy? I'm definitely saying something. I was like, she's got to go. And I alerted everyone. Yeah. And they're like, you have to leave now.
Oh.
And she was booted out so fast.
Jesus.
Like, are you trying to get all in trouble? And how did you even find out we were here? Yeah.
Yeah, who brought her? Who?
Sketchy times. Like,
yeah.
She just showed up. I think what happened was she was staying at someone's house nearby because we were in base housing. And I think she saw the commotion and was like, oh, let me just float on over here. It was the wrong group of people. The wrong group of people.
I've done that before too. Like
Mm,
not in the military,
they
just
tried to
like
get us murdered.
I've done that before going to like someone saying, "Oh, hey, we're having a house party over here," and then I go to the wrong place, but the wrong place is still having a party, and I'm there for like a half hour. I don't really know anyone, so um, and then eventually I get a text like, "Oh, hey, where are you?" I was like, "I'm here. Where are you? Are you like in the kitchen?" And it's like, "You're at the wrong house." Like, oh, like, "Hey guys, I'm gonna need to take this bottle back," and then that's what happened. Uh, in the so the life
I've done that.
it has been, yeah, it's quite an experience with that. One of the times that I kind of like to tell is when I was in Germany. This was 2019, and I'm watching Captain Marvel with everyone, and they're like in the theaters, and then like she's like kind of getting her ass kicked, and she gets super angry, and like she's ready to go kick some butt, and I was like, yeah, get him, Carol, get him. But like in Europe, they don't like cheer in the movie theater. Like they don't like go like yeah, like everyone's just super quiet. So everyone just looked at me like I'm like this autist that just had like an attack. And yeah, I don't know if you ever had that experience in Europe.
Yeah, we actually just had that happen when we saw John Wick, and when he was getting his ass kicked and falling down all those stairs. First of all, the entire time my son is like, ah, 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 ah. And I'm just like, oh my god, it's gonna be okay. And then when he falls down like the last step and starts to get up, I'm like, get up, John, get up. And I can tell that people are like, what? What are you? Why are you doing that?
I um
Is that not normal?
I remember going to the it was like 2006, I think, to like the one of those last Rocky movies. Like it was just called Rocky Balboa. It wasn't like Rocky Six. And at the end where he's
Hmm.
like he gets like knocked down. I remember going with my friend Joe and his dad. And when Rocky gets like knocked down, his dad like gets up out of his seat, he's like, "Get up, Rocky!" But it was in America, so it's fine. Everyone's
Yes.
like, "Yeah, yeah, I get." Um, yeah, I don't know why we do that. Which is so loud.
I don't know. It's just because we were like really into it. That has to be why. It's because we feel it. We're in the movie. That means
What's
it's a
the
good
most
movie.
emotional you've gotten, whether it be from
That's what
like
I
a
think.
TV or movie? Like, what's the most emotionally invested? It's a good question.
Mm.
It's a good one.
Oh my gosh. I think most recently, definitely Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3,
Oh,
the most recent, because that one was me and animals like this. So that was rough. That was hard. Um, Another one from a while ago, either Netflix or Hulu, and it was called American Sun. And I don't know why I clicked on it. I had never heard of it before. And it had Kerry Washington in it, and the entire movie just takes place in one room. It's one room, the whole movie.
yeah.
And um, uh, it's Kerry Washington, her husband or ex husband, soon to be ex husband, is a cop, and their son goes missing. And the whole movie is her at the police station just trying to find out what happened to her son, and the cops just kind of shrug her off because they only see this black woman who's like, my son is missing, I need to find him, something is not right, and they just assume like he's out doing hood rat stuff. And then her ex-husband walks in, and they treat him a lot better than her, and he's like, I need to know where my son is. And they're like, oh, it's your son too? And she's like, wait, so you're willing to help him, this white guy, but not me, because you assume my kid is like some sort of thug because I'm black. And that kind of like hit me in the chest because I look like this, my husband's a bald white guy, my kid's brown. And it's just like, dang, is this something that might happen in our lives? And it's like very real. So that one kind of like hit me right in the gut. and it's something I didn't think I've never thought about. And to this day, it's just like in the back of my mind. It's like, whoa. That's why being a parent is just so hard. And not saying I wouldn't, like, I'd go back and not have kids, but it's just something I never thought that I would have to
I feel it.
process and try to navigate a lot.
I'm glad you had I'm glad you answered with a very emotional, like, oh, this is well thought out, like relatable response. Mine was, and this is like, it's not the most emotional. It's just the most recent thing. It happened like 2 days ago, where I'm like scrolling through
Yeah.
TikTok, and it's Victoria Justice is getting interviewed. Like it was like a quick clip of her. I was like, oh, I love her. I'm gonna watch this TikTok, and I watch it, and it's about like the Zoe 102
Yeah.
movie. And she's like, yeah, I was gonna be in Zoe 102, but I just had some of these different things I had to do. I couldn't do it. And I was like, wait, there's a Zoe what? I was like, what? So I go like to YouTube, like to Zoe 102. I was like, and I screamed. I was like, there's no freaking way. So then I like post everywhere about it, and
Yes.
that's just the most excited I got in like the last couple of weeks.
I got so excited when I saw it. But when I started clicking on other videos that pertain to the release of that, I found out some pretty dark stuff about like Jamie Lynn and like her sister and the mistreatment of like some of the cast members, and I was like, holy crap. It
Oh,
like
tell
took me
us,
down
tell
a
us.
whole nother hole. And I was like, holy crap. The oh my gosh, is it the character that plays Quinn or the other one? There's like stories about Jamie Lynn, even I think maybe even her mom and Britney Spears like yelling at this child at the time about absolutely nothing and making her cry, and just how Nickelodeon in general at the time didn't protect her when she was kind of like being abused by some of the staff and other cast members. And it's just like, man, being a child actor has got to suck so bad
Yeah.
because like you're thrown into these adult situations as you're there to work, but you're also still a kid. But I'm curious to like look more into that and see
The
like what really happened back then.
apparently, I think Josh Peck was only paid like $3,000 an episode for Drake and Josh. Like it was like the lowest like pay. Like yeah, it was on a podcast between like Graham Stephan and the dude who played Ned in Ned's Declassified, and they were talking about it. It's like yeah, it was
Yeah,
like the worst thing that like Nickelodeon, not the worst thing. Obviously, Dan Schneider be like putting girls in super inappropriate spots, um, but yeah, like as far as payment wise,
oh yeah,
yeah, oh, that was. I watched a whole documentary on that too. That was wild.
that's insane. Oh, gross. That's ugh. And it just seems like from the outside, like when you're a kid watching these things, like it must be so fun to be able to be on TV and be famous and like be on these shows, but it's like it's so dark. There's so much drama involved, so much people taking your money, like people's parents taking their money, kids not getting paid what they deserve because they're kids.
Uh,
Mm-mm. That's so wild. The whole thing just seems wild.
I would have
And
a.
like, ugh.
I mean, I'd like to say that oh, I'd have like a lawyer and we'd go through it and I'd get, but there's a kid that is gonna do it for like half the price that you're at. Like they'll just do it just to be famous, just to do whatever.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I would.
Mm-hmm. So many people are chasing fame and just really don't care about the monetary compensation, which I get it, but I don't get it.
And if that's starving art, you just want to make sure you're into something and like, oh, hey, I'm gonna be remembered because I'm gonna be in this show like forever. And like, heck, I do that. I tried to get into acting myself. I did a pilot last year, and I was supposed to do National Movie this year, but it got delayed because like the writer strike. So hopefully I'll still do it. It'll just be early next year when they start filming.
Yeah.
Stealing Manhattan. Link down below for the book. So yeah,
Oh, how exciting is
yeah,
that? Oh my gosh, that's so
can't wait.
exciting. My nerves could never. I, Oh my god, that's so freaking cool. People tell me all the time, like, you'd be so good if you were on TV. Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
I mean, I feel like you're doing okay now. I mean, there's only
Mm-mm.
like 10 people here, but I feel like you're doing all right
Oh yeah,
now.
like this is fine. Like this is cool. I don't know. I'm a very nervous person. I know it doesn't seem like it often because I mean, I am outgoing, but I get nervous if there's more than like four people around me. I'm just like, oh, don't look at me. I do like the Big Daddy thing where you wear sunglasses so nobody can see you. I've done that
I feel
before
like you're pretty
as an
outgoing
adult.
because I've had honestly one of my favorite things to do, and I've told this to people before, is like when I'm on acid, I'll go and I'll like look at your Facebook profile because you post like the funniest things, like you post like the greatest memes, and it's just funny. Like you and this guy
I
Castro have the
so
best memes.
badly want to try it. I want to try it. I watched a doc acid and I want to try it so bad. The documentary sealed the deal for me, and I was like,
I would 10 out of
I
10
have
recommend.
to.
The only thing I would say like, okay, make sure the kids are out of town, kids are somewhere else, and that's it. As long as like the kids are not around, I'll go do it one day.
Yeah.
It's pretty great.
Oh, I have to. I have to try it one day. I have
I,
to try it.
it's
Like,
different though
I
when
feel
you're
like when I lived in Vegas, it would have been perfect.
it's different on whether you're with people or when you're alone. I feel like when you could take it like as a super deep introspective, like let me look at myself, inside. And that's when you're alone.
Yeah.
But you can take it when you're around people, and then you could just everything gets elevated like by 10. Like if you're having a couple drinks and do it, it's so good.
Like, I watched, it was like another podcast a couple days ago, and this guy was saying, like, shrooms is analog and acid is digital.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
like, I want to know what that's like. I want to know. I need to know. I need to. Like yesterday. I need to know. Because I've never tried anything. And
Well,
I'm a grown up now and I feel like I can handle it.
totally. I mean, the summer vacation now, right? Send the kids somewhere for like 2 days, and then just go on that trip.
I want to so bad. I'm gonna figure out a good time to try it out. Maybe go on a vacation, get out the room to myself and just like
Yeah. So be advised that
I feel like I just need that.
you might have to do it like twice because the first time you don't know how you're going to react to it. So you could have one and be like
Yeah.
in a really good place, and or you could have one and be like, this didn't really do anything for me, and I feel like I wait hours for it to hit and it wasted.
Yeah.
Um, Most likely one is good for a first time, but sometimes it's not. You don't really feel anything. But if you start off with like two right away, sometimes it's like way too much, and you're just like, oh God, I'm never doing this again. So depends.
I'm gonna die.
I did that when I was in Vegas recently. I was with this girl, and this is like our first time that we were like together, and
Yeah.
we had I took one, like we both took one, and then I was drinking, we were like doing something, and we just it didn't hit. I was like, okay, maybe this was just a dud. So I took another one, and because normally when I'm drinking, it hits pretty quickly within like an hour. So I took this one like a few hours afterwards, and sudden I'm playing poker, and like the cards start melting. I was like, oh God, I have to get out of here. And I finally find her. Oh, I found you remember Sergeant Castle? Sergeant Castle, Mike
Yes,
Castle. Oh,
I do.
he was there celebrating his retirement party.
Yes.
So I was like hanging with him and his wife, and my the girl that I was with, and we'd hung out the night before, and everyone was we were cool, we were chill, it was awesome. And then this day, I was on the stuff, and then I was like, dude, I am feeling really weird right now. He's like, you're acting fine. I was like, but listen, Mike, you don't, you are like this random person that I know, but I don't really think I know. He's like, dude, we've known each other for like 10 years. And I was
Yeah.
like, I know, but I'm not feeling the connection. and, and he's like, well, we're like about to go to Fremont Street. We're about to look at all these things. And I was like, yeah, I just don't know. I just didn't know about anything. So I didn't know this, but the girl that I was with escorted me up to the room. I thought I got there by myself. I don't know. And I guess she stayed with me too. She didn't go back out. And I was having these she had put the TV on and she had put Impractical Jokers on. And they were just in the background. I wasn't paying attention. And then finally I get like my faculties about me a little bit, and I start thinking like really cool thoughts, like, oh, maybe this is all just an alternate reality, and maybe this is just AR and VR, and I have these AR glasses on, and this is like a Rick and Morty experience. And then the TV, like, I don't hear the TV. I think the TV's off. I just think that I'm wearing these glasses, and the voices around me are people that are testing like the experiment, and they're like, oh, yeah, you made this whole life as Randy Chavez, but you know what your real name is? Your real name is like Dave, and you're at Yale, and like this is a whole new thing. And I was like, oh no, my real name's not Dave. I'm totally keeping Randy. But I'm talking to the TV, and the girl I'm with is like, looking at me like I have six heads. And yeah, that was my last experience
Oh
with it.
my gosh.
And so just
That sounds like a
sometimes
party.
it's not felt so real though.
I just have to know what that's like. I have to know what that's like. I've never I've never experienced anything like that. Like I've been on like pain meds and stuff before because of surgeries, but nothing that alters the way my brain sees things or the way I feel things. I want to know what that's like so bad. I
Makes you
just
want to
want
love
to
too.
experience that because I feel like I feel like it's just going to open my brain up and I'm going to see things so much clearer afterwards. And
Yeah,
that's
it
what I
makes you want
want.
to love. Like you
I
just want to like have a good time with
want
your
that.
friends, family, and you're just like violence seems so silly, and being like mean to people seems so silly. It's like, oh no, we're all just humans, man. Like it's that hippy dippy like love stuff.
Yeah. I love that. Ugh. That's how I'm trying to be in my regular life. I mean, I feel like I did a pretty decent job of that. I spent so many years being like angry and just like I don't want to say bitter, but just not as loving as I could be. And part of that came from the way I was treated when I was in New Jersey. And it took me a lot of years to like break out of that hardness and to be like as happy as I am now and to to learn how to see things from other perspectives and not be so angry. And I want to elevate that. I want to elevate that joy and happiness and love and just make it bigger because it's been really good so far. I feel a lot better not being angry all the time.
Yeah,
So like, why not have drugs to help? I need that. I think everybody does at least a little bit.
I
Like
agree.
a
I
little. I
I
do
don't
have a
think I've met
question
some.
for you though.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So curious. So I know that we're at the same base, but we never really crossed paths. But I've been following you on the internet. I love everything that you do. I love everything that I see. It's like my favorite thing on the planet ever, ever. I want to know like what got you into like what you're doing now, like your podcast, you making like YouTube videos, the work that you do with like the animals and raising money for that. Like, cause I love that. If I like one day, I hope that I'm in a spot financially where I can like build things and rescue dogs. Like I love
Oh,
it.
we're gonna have a good conversation about this. Okay, so the YouTube thing, it started. it started with
Yeah.
Pokemon, where there's this website called E4, short for Elite Four, like in the Pokemon League.
Yeah.
And people would go, it's kind of like Reddit for Pokemon. There's cards, there's sales data, there's who wants to buy something, who wants to sell something. I'm looking for this, and it's for
Yeah.
Pokemon card collectors. And there, one of the things was sales data or sales prices and what sold for what. And I was taking up so much of that particular thread, like, oh, this Caterpie just sold for this. What do y'all think? Like, oh, this just, and I
Yeah.
felt like after a while, nobody was like answering me. I was like, okay, clearly I need an outlet for this. Clearly, like they're getting a little tired of the Chavez over here. So I started with just Pokemon sales data, and I was like, hey, for anyone that wants to know, like, wants to start investing in these, here's all of the data that you can get from eBay. I compiled it up here, and I broke it down by grade, by
Yeah.
first edition, by holo, by set, and then I was like, hey, I really like this. I'm gonna, I talk about other things I like about. I like Tesla. I like politics. I like all this stuff. And then I found this company called
Yeah.
Earth Two. The Earth Two is like this metaverse where you could buy any piece of land on Earth, but like in the metaverse, like it's just like a computer thing. And it was addicting. It was fun, and I got a lot of viewers from that. And then I got partnered on YouTube because of that. I was like, oh, all right, so we're making some money now. So I went and
Yeah.
tried to find the crypto that they were going to use because they hadn't announced it yet. It was supposed to be on this chain called Go Chain, and then I find this token called Omi, which you should totally invest in. By the way, DaLesha, it is. I would say it'll do like 100x in 2 years. So if you put, let's say, like $100 in right now, it would probably be worth about 10,000 in 2 years. So I put like everything I had into it, and at the time, um, I had made quite a lot of money with it, but I never sold. I never locked in that profit. So when like the bear market came and all this inflation came, it just came crashing down. And it'll go back up again. It's just it'll take like a year for. It's about Bitcoin. It's
Yeah.
about halving. It's about all these markets, and we'll talk more about it like offline. Um, and the animal thing
Yeah.
is where I always loved animals. I worked as a veterinarian assistant for about 9 years before I joined the military, and I
Yeah.
was on mushrooms one day, and I was in my friend's kid's room. Like my friend's kid like went to like her grandparents for whatever reason, party, graduation, whatever. So I'm in her room. I was just playing video games, and then the mushrooms start to hit. I was like, whoa. So I turn off the video game. I blacked out the room, and suddenly like I just see space and I see stars, and I go past like the Milky Way and Andromeda Galaxy and all these other places,
Yeah.
and I come to a place where I see a sun, a bunch of planets around it, and then another sun and a bunch of other planets around it, and they're like talking to each other. Like these two solar systems are in communication, and it got me thinking, like, okay, if we're humans want to be like survive this game that we call life, um, we need to be
Yeah.
multiplanetary. And I thought that okay, at some point a lot of us are going to be on Mars, but there's no wildlife on Mars. All the wildlife is here. And then I thought, like, well, eventually Earth will probably not no longer be viable, and they might want to bring some of those things to Mars. And it's like, okay, I think humans would be really
Mhm.
sad if there was no like if they like died out before we could do that. And so part of my plan is to make
Yeah.
as much money as possible and to buy these large areas of land in like Indonesia and in Madagascar, where all the endangered species are, and just to
Yeah.
help try and save them. And I recognize that I could do all this and it could not help at all. Like they could still die, but I feel like it's really important and I should try. And then I love dogs too, so so that's my whole reason.
I freaking love that. I wish that in maybe in this lifetime there are three things that if I had the power to change and make better, I absolutely would. And number one, the homeless veteran crisis is near and dear to my heart personally. It's wild and I freaking hate it. Second, the foster care system. Absolute. hot garbage. It has affected my family in the most negative way possible. And if I had an endless amount of money, I would fucking fix it. 3, saving all the animals. If I could figure out how, I would absolutely do it. I know I'm just one person, but somebody's got to try. Like, I do my part. Like, I just wish I had infinite funds and I would take those 3 things and make them so much better.
Yeah.
Ugh. Ugh.
I
Ugh.
think I think we could make headway on the animal part.
Foster care.
The foster care, I just don't know anything about, and I don't really know the right solutions. Like you could put like a band-aid on it and be like, oh, I'll take care of this, this, and this, but that might not fix like the whole problem. Like
Yeah.
it seems really, really complicated.
Nope.
Yeah.
It's it's a lot. It is. It's a lot because a lot of the people involved don't follow the rules. And that's where the problem is. There's not enough people being held accountable and doing their jobs correctly. And that's the main issue. I mean, just like anything else with somebody not doing it correctly, the only difference is them not doing their job the way they're supposed to affects everyone's lives. They're manipulating the legal system. They're manipulating people's families. It's a hot mess, and I wish that there was more that people could do. But unfortunately, the more money you have, the more corrupt you can make people, and the more children you can acquire through
Mm.
foster care. So it's it's a horrible thing. I used to like growing up I always knew I wanted to be a mom. I didn't ever think that I wanted to physically have children because it just seemed like a lot, and then I found out by having one that yeah, this shit's not for me. But I've always wanted like a buttload of kids, and I figured maybe one day I'll become like a foster parent and I can just give them a safe place to be until either they're reunited with their parents or their family members, show up and can take care of them. And fortunately for us, that process happened a lot faster than I thought it would because I had my own family member go into foster care when she was like 3 days old. Um, but the shitty part was, you know, I when I find out about something, I like to read about it. I like to know every single process so that I fully understand. So when I got a phone call from CPS in the state of Maryland saying that I had a cousin who was taken into care, what do I want to do? I stayed up for so many nights just reading all of the laws regarding foster care, CPS, foster kinship, next of kin, fictive kin, stuff like that. And I was like, okay, it seems pretty cut and dry. Everything's written out in this law book. Me and my husband followed all the steps. We did everything right. And here we are almost 5 years later. And they have allowed my family member to be adopted by her foster family. And there's no like legal grounds for any of it. It's just completely wild because the law states, you have to work on reunification with the parents. And if that is not possible, you place the child with family, and they completely bypass that entire step.
So
Like,
the
just
adoption wasn't legal. Like the court would overrule that because
no, what they did was during the process, made up things as to why my cousin couldn't be with us, which all of it was lies. Because we did everything that we were supposed to do, pay a lot of money for background checks, home visits, fingerprints, becoming licensed foster parents, changing everything in our house to be fit for a baby because my kids are old. I don't have a baby in my home. And we followed all the steps, went to court. I would fly back and forth, literally followed all the rules, and they would tell the judge, well, their family's military and they're unstable. They could move at any time, and that's just not good. Or, oh, they live all the way in Las Vegas. The child is here in Maryland. How is she supposed to try to bond with her parents who are here if she goes all the way over there. And it just, everything they did was like really backstabby, or they would make plans and not notify us when they were supposed to so that we would miss court
Uh,
dates. And it was just really, it felt very human trafficking. And then towards the end, I don't know if this was done intentionally, but one of the lawyers accidentally emailed me a paper trail of the emails between the Department of Family Services and the foster family, and they wanted to adopt my cousin immediately when she arrived to their house as a newborn. And they basically did everything in their power to make sure that that happened. And that is not what's supposed to happen at all. Like, not even close. So that really opened my eyes. And then that led me down a rabbit hole on TikTok, actually, of other people that were foster parents who did it for the same reasons I wanted to, just to give them a safe place to be and not be in a group home and not get passed around. And this guy was saying, caseworkers would come to him and be like, "Oh, I know you've had this child for 3 months. Do you want to adopt them?" And he'd be like, "Well, where's their family at?" And they'd go, "Oh, we couldn't find anyone." And he's like, "That's odd." And he would get on Facebook for like 3 minutes and find everyone and send them a message and be like, "Hey, I have your nephew here, and they're wanting me to adopt him." And they're like, "Wait, our nephew is in the system? Like, what? We didn't know. Of course we'll take him." And so then he got out of being a foster parent because they were not doing what they're supposed to do. Like, I know some people have great experiences with it, but the fact that their whole motto is keeping families together and these people have ripped mine apart is just hot garbage. Like, I didn't like that. It's it's weird what they did because they forced me and my family to create a bond with my cousin via phone calls, flights back and forth for 4 years. This child was integrated into my heart, into my husband's heart, with my kids. She had her own room in my house. And then one day, they just basically tell me I don't need to contact them anymore because she's going to be adopted by this foster family. And it felt like somebody died. Like, I felt like she died because I'm never going to see her again. And that shit hurt. But I feel a little better about it now, only because it's 2023. Technology is so advanced, you can literally find anyone
uh,
on the internet within minutes. And she's almost 5, so let's just say by the time she's 10, she learns how to use Google. She'll find us, and it'll be okay. But it's she should be here. She should actually be with her mom, to be completely honest. I mean, she was taken away for a reason, but her mom fully complied with everything, and they still would not give her child back.
uh,
So it's wild. It's a wild system. It's insane. It's
yeah.
very
Like
corrupt.
you said, that's like kidnapping. That's like taking some.
Basically,
Oh my God.
like
That's
it's it's wild,
what was the system that did
wild.
it again? Is it just called like the foster care system? What's the actual
It
name of
was,
it?
well, I think worldwide it's just foster care. When so what happened was CPS took my cousin from the hospital because her mom previously did used to use drugs. So when my cousin was born, she had like trace amounts of drugs in her system, not enough to go through like withdrawal or have any problems, but she had drugs in her system. So legally, CPS, Child Protective Services, had to step in and remove the child and then do a whole process to ensure that she would be safe being reunited with her parents. So what happened was CPS takes the child into like state custody. So then your child becomes like property of the state or like a ward of the state. But
Yeah.
then after a certain amount of time is then when your child gets put into the foster care system. And what we were trying to do was prevent that because once children go into the foster care system, it is very hard to get them out. And that's exactly what happened. So they put her into foster care. It was shortly after my birthday. So she was a little over a month old by this time. And what they do is they get with the parents and they say, okay, here's, X, Y, and Z, you have to do all of this in order for us to deem you safe enough to have your child back. And they're like, okay, cool, perfect. Her mom has been clean since she's been born. She's been clean. Her house was always nice and set up. The child had her own room. Safety precautions were put into place. Like everything was right. They even went so far as to have my cousin go back home with her mom. She was in the house for unsupervised visits and then would have to go back to her foster family, per like the court's recommendations. But this was only supposed to go on for so long, and then she was supposed to go home. And then out of the blue, they stopped letting her go back home to her mom and made up something regarding, oh, well, we think that she's using again. But you can't think someone is using, you have to prove that they're using. And what they did was they were like, well, we're going to do a hair follicle test to prove that she's using drugs. And the shady part about that is my cousin's mom was doing weekly drug tests, and they all came back negative. Every single one, all of them, because she wasn't using anymore. And so the place that they sent her to do this hair follicle test, surprise, surprise, happens to be the same place that the caseworker used to work at. And they weren't supposed to use that because of like conflict of interest. And magically, this test comes back positive for all of the drugs,
All
all of the drugs. And so they're like, yeah, you're not getting your kid back. Sorry about it. But then when they made that decision, what they were supposed to do was contact me and be like, okay, now's the time. You have to come out here, get your cousin, and take her back with you. And they decided not to do that. They skipped over that part. So it's just really wild, the lengths they would go through to keep her away from her family, but the entire time claim that they wanted her to be connected to us. And the saddest part of all of this is I'm the one that's furthest away, but I'm the only one really capable to care for a child. But both my grandparents, her grandparents, live in the same city as her. We have cousins that live in the same city. They could have contacted any of them,
yeah.
and they didn't on purpose. They did not contact anyone. And I just thought that was so wild. Like you're in the business of trying to help children, but you're willing to pull them away from their family. And they went so far as to, when she had her visits with her mom, they told her, don't talk to her about home anymore. Don't mention her pets at home. Don't mention
Mhm.
anything, because they were trying to just erase the memories of us from her brain so that it would be easier for her to be adopted by these
Yeah.
people. Yeah, it's weird. It's crazy. And like I've met people here that were in foster care and had siblings that they could have grown up with and families that they could have grown up with that now that they're adults are pretty pissed off about it that nobody reached out like on purpose. It's
I
gross. It
I
really is.
wonder what if you could have like a class action lawsuit against them and be like, hey, you've done this to probably millions of people, and
So many.
yeah,
It's
on like,
it's
and
crazy.
they get more money for the amount of kids that they have, and you think that's why that they don't have they don't
I
tell
don't know, like, because foster parents get paid
them.
to have children in their home, so they get paid. It's a job essentially. Um, and adopting children out of foster care is far cheaper than traditional adoption, which costs hundreds of thousands of dollars. Whereas adopting out of foster care, maybe a couple $100s. It's not as expensive, so a lot of people try to go that route. And you should never get into foster care if your goal is adoption, because the entire premise of foster care is to reunite children with their families. And a lot of people do it for the wrong reasons, like my cousin's foster family, which is it's really terrible. And like I said, the only thing that's keeping me holding on is the fact that we are in a very advanced technological age where she will be able to find us and be able to ask questions and we can answer them honestly. Because I don't believe that her foster family would do that. They pretended to be cool the whole time, and even the last time I flew out there for court, they wouldn't speak to me. I was standing directly in front of them, and they would not speak to me.
Yeah.
And that was a little weird. That let me know that something was up. And It was just really bad. So that's if I could figure out how to make that entire system better, I absolutely would because it's 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 falling apart. It's not good at
I
all.
feel like you would need people at like every level, like at every office to like go and
Every
report and just
single level. The only through this entire almost 5 year process, there's been two people, only two, who are actually doing their job correctly. And the very last lawyer, I wish that he could have popped up earlier, but we didn't run into him until this case got to like the Maryland Supreme Court level.
yeah.
And actually, this guy, if I wish I could like meet him in person and just give him a hug. He actually retired Air Force, security forces, became a lawyer to try to do the same thing to help these kids. And he was so upset that this happened. And he was so upset that this happened to us because, as military people, we don't all know each other, but we're all family. We all went through the same things. We're connected by that. And so you can tell like through the phone that he was just heartbroken that this happened to another military family, his family, and he couldn't do anything. So like you would need good people on every single level to try to change all of this. That's the only way it's gonna happen. But I don't see it happening anytime soon, unfortunately. And that sucks.
You would need like $100 million. You would need because you have to pay people to do it, and you said at every level, at
Yeah.
every office. It's like, oh,
Like people
yeah.
who actually get into it for the right reason. Ugh, but that's a whole nother freaking heartache that I'll deal with at another time. But yeah, it's sad. It is so sad that these kids can't deal with that stuff. They're just kids. Their brains aren't fully developed. They don't know how to process any of that crap.
Yeah.
Shit, I'm an adult and I don't know how to deal with that
It's sad. Just like we cry over like the Guardians movie. Like, you think we can process this shit?
Yeah, literally. Again, the reason I said I was so happy to come on here is me and one of my friends that I met stationed at McGuire, she was one of the lucky ones. So she showed up at McGuire, got a deployment 6 months later. After her deployment got orders, she was out. She was in, then out. She didn't get trapped like the rest of us.
Yeah.
But we were like, we should absolutely start a podcast about like our experience in the military, especially being like women and like the bullshit. Because what started it was I was contacted about being a part of a panel here at Chavez for Women's History Month, and what they wanted was uh, women in different categories of like military employment. So there was like a GS-12 there. There was a squadron commander. There was a retired chief on the panel. There was a current officer, a brand new airman that's only been in like a couple months, and like another senior NCO, and then me, somebody who's a veteran, a woman, male dominated career field, and then currently works as a civilian still for the federal government. So it's a pretty diverse group. And I'm going into this thinking, oh, this is going to be great. It's going to be awesome. This panel is going to be amazing. I'm going to ask questions. It's going to be, women empowerment. Complete fucking opposite. Complete opposite. Almost every woman on that panel set women in the military back like 50 years. And I was pissed off about it. I was like,
What did they say? What was their? What
oh
did they
my
do?
gosh. Like, so like one of the questions somebody in the audience asked, it was to me and the squadron commander because she was the commander of I think like a maintenance squadron, so a bunch of dudes. And the question was like, how do you like prove yourself in a male dominated career field? Like, what do you do to not just be looked at like, oh, that's a woman, she can't do this, whatever. I answered first. Um, Backstory: my mom was a single parent in the army. She did 22 years, didn't take anybody's shit, didn't change for anyone, proved that she can do her job, and that's how she proved herself. And she taught me the same thing. So that's what I said. I shouldn't have to go somewhere and prove that just because I'm a woman, I can also do these things because I kind of had to, especially being a 2T2. So a lot of our job is driving those massive vehicles, and people assume because I'm like 5 feet tall and a woman, I can't drive a 60K. What the fuck does that have to do with anything? Show me how to drive it, I can drive it. Probably one of the best drivers I know. One of the best forklift drivers I know. Give people a chance, they can prove it. It's fine. It has nothing to do with the fact that I'm a woman. And then this woman next to me was like, I change everything about myself so that guys don't look at me like I'm a woman. And I was like, she's like, yeah, I make my voice deeper. I try not to use certain words to sound too smart. And I was like, girl, why would you do that? Why would you do that? And she was one of those, how do I describe her? She went to a military academy, as did her brothers and her uncles and her parents. So she wasn't like, she didn't do like ROTC in college. She went to a military academy and made it seem like she just made that choice randomly one day and showed up. That's not how that works. And she was like, yeah, one time I went to an appointment and one of the officers there looked at me and goes, "Ah, bah, 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 bah." And she was like, what are you doing? And he's like, that's what you sound like because you have a squeaky woman voice. And she said after that, like she like deepens her voice and talks slower and does like all this other unnecessary stuff to try to be taken seriously. I'm just like, you're sitting on a panel and everybody in this room is watching. It's also like being streamed on Teams. So everybody knows that you are fake. And now I would no longer trust you
Yeah.
to be in charge of anything, knowing that you go out of your way to be different. And a lot of them up there agreed with that. And I was like, I wouldn't trust you at all. And then one of the questions was about microaggressions and how to deal with it. And the woman on the other side of me, literally 20 seconds later, just projected some microaggressions while answering the question. And I was like, girl, what are you doing up here? What is happening in this moment right now? It's like, am I in the Twilight Zone? I thought we were up here advocating for women, and you guys are just like, yes, I'm proving your point. Exactly. I was like, no fucking way. Like I'm not up here. And then like the icing on the cake, which sealed the deal for me and what actually made my husband walk out as a first sergeant because it pissed him off. Somebody asked like how they feel about the new dress and appearance regulations and how well versed they are on them, and do they think it's acceptable to turn to like another coworker for them to clarify something rather than them knowing it themselves. And almost all of them were like, yeah, I don't know anything about beards or men's haircuts, so I'll just ask one of my coworkers. And I'm like, you're a first sergeant.
Oh my God. Yeah.
If I'm expected to know the regs, why don't you know them? And that's what really grinds my gears because even though I did have moments of being like a dirtbag airman, one thing I will do is read. I'm always going to make sure that I know my job, I know the regulations, I know what I'm supposed to be doing. And the fact that these leaders were up here on this panel saying out loud, straight up, I don't read that book, I don't know what's in it, but I'm glad that somebody I work with does know, and I'll just go ask them.
Oh my God. It's so dangerous. What if they're not there
That
one day?
is. Yeah, it's just like you can't just depend on others to know your job. If you are my squadron commander, you're supposed to be up here and I'm down here. Why am I supposed to know more than you? It doesn't make sense to me. It's just wild. Like at my job now, I read our regulations, even the ones that don't pertain to me. So like I work at AFES and there's like 8 billion regs, just like in the military. And when I'm not really doing anything at work, even when I'm at home, I'll pull it up and try to read it so that I know what the fuck I'm talking about. Because people trust you when you know what you're talking about. You can't just talk out of your ass. And I don't have to do that, but it makes my job easier and it makes people at my job trust me. And so the fact that we had military leaders on this panel just say out loud, no, I'm not reading that book. I have a question about somebody's beard, I'll just go ask this guy over here.
Ugh.
It made me sick. I was like, what? And that's what like made me kind of revert back to my airman brain when I had supervision who just like didn't know anything, but we
Yeah.
were supposed to respect them and admire them because they had rank. Having rank does not mean that you know things at all. It's not what makes you special. It's just having the stripes. You have to know what you're doing also. And a
I
lot of people don't.
where I had gone and I guess lost respect for some people is when, and maybe it's not like really their fault, but they should have definitely known better. Is when I see people, and not airmen, but staff sergeants and above, that something's coming down. Like let's say we have even in packs, like okay, we have packs coming down on Golf 4, we have other stuff to do, and it's like okay, like it's a lot, but we have all these people, we could handle it. And then I see like the staff sergeant be like, hey, we need people out here now. Like, yeah, we're going. It's not going to delay it. It's fine. But I don't know when they freak out and then they start yelling at other people, and maybe some of the airmen might freak out if they're new or if maybe they're not sure what they're doing. That herd mentality.
Yeah,
It really messes someone up. And I was like, I don't know. So like being laid back is a bit easier.
it really is. And then when people in a position that are higher up do that thing where they freak out or micromanage or, hey, we gotta, it makes me lose trust in you because I'm here for a reason and I'm here because you trust me to do my job. So if you've already let me know, hey, there's this plane coming down at this time with this going on, and already dispersed the information, you should trust us enough to go do our job without you freaking out and doing all that because it's not going to help anyone. Like we already know the task at hand. Let us do it. If you see something wrong, correct us or help us out. But like when people go out of their way to freak out, like we have all this to do, we have to da 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 da. We know, like chill, and we'll get it done. Like we're getting it done right now. Like don't panic. It's okay. Like who did this to you? Why are you? It can't get done any faster because if you do, you start making mistakes, then you get in trouble for the mistakes. 2T2 life is dangerous. Somebody could get hurt. Like calm down,
There's,
relax.
there's some people that. Do you remember Woodruff? Uh, So apparently he wasn't allowed to have any trainees. Like he wasn't allowed to have any until I got
Nope.
there, and I was the first person that he had ever had in like 7 years. So when somebody asked me like, "Oh, who's like your direct supervisor?" I'm like, "Oh, I have Sergeant Woodruff." They're like, "Oh, good luck." And I was like, "Why does everyone keep saying that?" And then I quickly freaking found out that yeah, that was. Tell me your stories about him because you seem to have a few.
So I remember when I first met him. Was I still at PAX? Was I still at PAX? I don't remember if I was still over there or not. When he came in, I just remember my husband's reaction to him, and my husband was like, "Is that Sergeant Woodruff?" So Woodruff was a staff sergeant when my husband was an airman. Um, he was actually a staff sergeant when a lot of the senior NCOs at McGuire were airmen.
Yeah.
So that should tell you something there. And I didn't have many interactions with him, and then he came to work cargo when I was at cargo, and um, he he has a lot of opinions about things, which is fine. Everybody has opinions, and they're entitled to them. They're your opinions. But he would say some things sometimes that were a little, I don't want to say they're racist, but probably like stereotypical things that he assumed about black people. And since I was like one of the only black people that worked over there, he always had to let me know, and I'd quickly let him know, hey, that's inappropriate. You don't need to say that to me. And then he would make it his mission to keep saying those things to me. And I was like, wow, he just doesn't learn. He assumed one time that because I am black that I grew up extremely poor and I didn't know what it was like to have nice things and that's why I joined the military. And I was like, that
Oh
is
my.
the complete opposite. I was like, why would you even say that out loud? And he was like,
Yeah.
because it's usually true. And I was like, hear that. And then one day, this is my favorite part about McGuire. I got married to my husband maybe like a year and some change after I got there. So we've been married almost the whole time. Half those people didn't know that that was my husband, and neither did Woodruff. And he felt really comfortable saying things around my husband without him knowing that was my husband. So yeah, he was quite a character. And I will say, although he is the way he is, um, he did something really good for me once, and he probably doesn't even know it. We happened to take a PT test on the same day at the same time,
Mhm.
and I'm not a runner. I was never a runner. It's always been my downfall. But I had been working on it, and I was like, "Oh, I got this." So I'm running during this PT test, and all of a sudden I see this little round flash go past me, and it's Woodruff. And I was like, "There's no way. There's no way that this old round man is this fast. He's fast. That is a fast man." And so because he passed me, I was like, I cannot let him beat me. So I did so well on that PT test because I could not let him get past me. That man is fast. How? I don't know. I have no clue. But he was a character, and yeah, I don't miss him at all. There's a lot of people that I don't miss. He's one of them. But I do like to sit back and laugh when I think about him. He's God, what a weird man. How did he make it that far with those stripes?
Yeah, he finally made it to 30 years, and so he was a 30-year staff sergeant, and and then he retired as a 30-year staff sergeant. I don't know what that pension must have been like, but two of my favorite moments I think were with him. One was, and they were both exemplifying how like ridiculous he was. One was in the winter. Did you work with Harnish?
I did not. I did not.
Okay, she's great. Love her. Like one of my favorite people. Um, she was very, hey, if I don't like something, I'm gonna let you know it, and
Hmm.
she did. That's what I love about her. And Woodruff was also very standoffish about everything, and he wanted, for whatever reason, the back gate. It was in the winter. He wanted the back gate to be closed, like at the Bay Area, like where we had the trucks. He's like,
Hmm.
so do you remember Haley?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So he was dispatch, and I was doing something with like eSecure. So he was dispatch. I was doing something with eSecure. Woodruff was uh going out doing missions, whatever. Same thing as Harnish was. And then he kept telling me like, I want this back gate. I want it to stay closed. So then Harnish would purposely keep opening the back gate when she would leave, just to piss him off. So one time he comes in, and he comes in like into dispatch with his little light wands, with his gloves, and he's like, "That's it, Haley. I want you to remind me. LOCs, LOCs for everybody." And he's like throwing his gloves. He's like throwing a fit, and and then he doesn't give a chance for Haley to answer, and he goes back out and does like something, and then me and Haley just look at each other. We just crack up laughing, and so that was one of my
My
favorite
God.
moments with him. The other favorite moment was when so it's not the moment of him being homophobic, but so it was me and this girl, I forget her name. She was a reservist that I was training on the counter, and she is just by look like, oh hey, there's probably a greater than 0% chance that this lady is a lesbian. Like there's a just, and I don't want to assume anything. Like she was like I knew she was. We were friends. She told me, but even before she told me, you could kind of tell. So the fact that Woodruff either didn't know this, was not paying attention. New Jersey had just legalized gay marriage, And we were talking about that, and he comes in and is like,
Mhm.
"Oh yeah, we need more of those up in here." And so she's reservist, so she's like, he's not her direct supervisor at all, and she like goes off about him, be like, "You want to know what I had to do these last 10 years? You want to know what I like?" It was beautiful. I was like, "Oh, get him, girl!" And then we're just like, "Oh, well," and then he just walks away after being tongue lashed. So that was yeah, my two of my favorite moments in the military were with Woodruff.
He was God. He was such a character. He he just ooh. He wasn't a person that I like disliked there. I just tried to avoid him because shenanigans just ensued. He was just I don't even know how to describe it. He wasn't a bad guy. He just I don't know how he made it there that long.
He
I just don't know. I don't know.
do you remember starting Norway?
Why does that name sound familiar?
I think he retired as a senior, but he was master when I was there. He might have been tech like earlier than that, but
It sounds so familiar.
he's a cool dude. Great guy. I think he still lives in New Jersey. I think because I'm friends with him on Facebook. Got a cool family. They seem pretty legit. But he told me one day that it was like now it's probably like 15, 20 years ago, whatever. But he told me that back in the day, when Woodruff was senior airman Woodruff, he was like a firefighter or something, and he goes into two packs. I think he's reservist at this time too, and he just wanted to like talk to someone because he had like marks on his face, and he's like, "Hey, yeah, Woodruff, what happened?" And I guess his he was with this he was married, I guess, at the time, and him and his stepson didn't get along, and his stepson like beat the crap out of him because he said something about like his mother, and it's like, no, you fucking. And so he comes in,
I feel
and
like
he's
I've
just like,
heard that story about Woodruff.
oh yeah. So
I've
I
heard
guess
that.
we'll travel. Um, so I was like, oh my god, no way. I was like,
Is
what'd
that
you
your
do?
favorite supervisor, Sergeant Woodruff?
So it was yeah. So Sarnor was just like, well, like what do you want to like? Okay, do you go to medical? Do you want to call the cops? He's like, no, I don't want to call the cops. I just wanted someone to talk to. So he like, of course, he started in Norway, and I was like, oh man, I don't want to talk to this guy about this. I don't know what to do. Um, and like that, and he sat him down for like a half hour and just told him the story about how his life sucks and how he's like afraid to go home because his stepson's there. And that was like 15 years ago now. I guess even more than that. Like maybe
That's
even 20.
wild. Oh my gosh. Uh, that man. I miss like the weird stories from being at McGuire. I think some of my favorite do come from working packs though, because that's where you see the most people come in and out. And when I first got to McGuire and started working packs, it didn't look the way that it does now because I want to say back in 2007 there was talks of McGuire being either shut down or they were trying to determine if it was going to be a joint base or not. There was nothing there. McGuire was a ghost town. Like I think maybe we had 2 or 3 60Ks. There was no PAX mission. There was nothing at all. Like the PAX terminal, like straight up and down the middle, we had a putt putt course. So at the very end, by the sliding doors that open to the flight line, was like this big structure with like chains and like chalk, and like there was the hole there, so you had to like hit all through all that. And then there was like I want to say nothing at McGuire when I first got there. And the mezzanine that was upstairs wasn't open to like the public at the time. And we only had like a handful of passengers. But then after I got back in Baghdad is when Putt Putt was gone. It was replaced with chairs. And I was like, what is this? What's happening? They're like, oh, it's about to get wild in here. And for sure it did. And the characters that came along with it just blew my mind. The mezzanine, there's people who had their junk out up there or trying to do stuff up there, not knowing there's a camera. We've had like one drunk guy. He had like a whole handle of Captain one time, and he was drunk, and he was like on the opposite side where past the vending machines, like just drunk over there. I don't know what he was doing. We called security forces, and it took them way too long to show up. We had a chaplain try to start fights with everybody once. I think like a
Like,
C5
wait, the
broke.
chaplain started fights with everyone?
Yes, he didn't want to follow any rules. He thought he worked there and was in charge of something. So like when the plane first landed and everybody got off, it was because there was an issue. So the same passengers, of course, are wanting to get back on that plane to go home. Makes sense. But we had to tell them, hey, they clearly landed for a reason. Something's wrong. It has to be fixed. We're not maintenance. We don't know. We'll tell you when we know something. And this chaplain was like, okay, well, I have friends in the area and we want to go stay with them. And it was like him, his wife, and maybe like 3 or 4 kids. So they had a lot of luggage. And he asked, oh, can I just leave all of my luggage over in this area? And it was where the in-flight kitchen was. And we're like, no, sir, you can't leave your luggage in there. You have to take it with you. And he's like, oh, okay, cool. Understood. He disappears, and we're assuming he got picked up to go to his friend's house. I'm walking around, and I go and I check behind the counter, like where the USO people usually hang out at in the flight kitchen. All of his luggage is back there. And I'm like, did we not just tell this man that he cannot do that? So then, luckily his name and number is on there. Give him a call. Like, you have to come get your stuff. You can't. We told you can't leave it. So he gets an attitude, comes back, and everyone else from the plane, of course, is upset. We're stranded. Like, we have nowhere to go. It's like, don't worry. You can camp out here. You can go to TLF, whatever. But like, the plane's broke. We can't do anything about it. And at the time, I'm pregnant. I can't remember how pregnant. But he comes up to me, pulls me to the side, and he goes, you can have a little bit more compassion when you're telling people that the airplane is broken. Um, they're really sad that they can't get home. And I'm like, sir, I'm delivering the message. I can't cry with everyone who's up here because they're crying. Is that what you want me to do? And he's like, you can be a little more empathetic. And I was like, telling me how to do my job? And I was like, no, sir. And then like other passengers would be like going back and forth with each other, and then he would jump in, and then it would like escalate it. And then Miss Glaze, she made an announcement, and he came up to her and was like, you should try saying this or doing that when you're telling people stuff or all this. And she's like, are you trying to tell me how to do my job that I've been doing since I was 17? That's how long I've worked here. And then he started popping off at her and getting loud. And Miss Glaze didn't play those games with any passenger. And he's like, oh, I'm gonna write a comment card. And she was like, go ahead. It's Cheryl Glaze. Glaze like the donut. Spell it right. And I was like, he was stirring issues with everybody. Like, those are my favorite but least favorite type of people. Like, we've had a woman come in one time. I think she had like 4 kids, and she was by herself, and they were all boys, and it seemed like they were all in the same age range, so they were just everywhere, and she was not watching them. Like, she would go outside to smoke cigarettes and just leave them inside. And this is before there was like a fence that went around and blocked off the flight line. One of her kids escaped and was on the flight line. It was
Oh my.
wild. Yeah, and she was like, I need this plane to get fixed. Da da da. Like, ma'am, we are not maintenance. We don't fix it. I don't know what you want us to do. And then one of her kids ended up getting pink eye. And um, I can't remember what supervisor was there at the time, and I asked, I was like, because they're in a C5 and it's a little closer together, what are the rules about traveling with pink eye that's contagious? Like, do we have to ensure that they've been on medication for a certain number of hours so it's not contagious? And there was something that we found. And so we told her, hey, you can make an appointment at the clinic and get the drops. The plane isn't fixed yet. And after I think 24 hours of using the medication, it's not contagious anymore. And she's like, oh, no, 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 no. It's not pink eye. Because at first she said it was, because she said our play area was dirty and gave her son pink eye. So then when I brought up the fact that she couldn't fly if it was pink eye, she's like, oh, no, no, it's not pink eye. And some passenger yells from across like the terminal, it is pink eye. He got it from rubbing his asshole and touching his eye. And I lost my shit. I was like, what? And she was like, no, it's not pink eye. It's just this guy. And I was like, well, ma'am, yesterday you told us it was pink eye. So which one is it? And it wasn't a big deal. Like, we were able to call the clinic for her. She got an appointment. Like, a taxi took her. But she was so mad that she couldn't fly. And I'm like, and you keep leaving your kids unattended. Like, what is going on? That play area was the devil. When I was there, too many kids broke their arms in there. And it happened to be always when my husband was supervisor for the night. Maybe he's bad luck.
Oh,
I don't know. I have no idea. I miss PAX. I miss it.
Pa-
That place was
yeah,
wild.
PAX was great.
That place
We
was
all right, so you know
wild.
how in
It's
in the
that place gives me such good.
so you know how in the back of the terminal going past the vending machines going towards where TMO is, and then there's bathrooms? I don't know if you can hear me. I don't know if the internet went out. Can you still hear
Hmm.
me? Okay. All right. So the bathrooms
Yes.
over where TMO is, there's no women's bathroom back there. It's just another man's bathroom back there with a shower, right?
Hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
So there was this woman that had gone there and she had come to the front desk and said like, "Hey, there's like a man in the bathroom and he's just, I kind of asked how long, like he's been in there a while. I asked how long. I was like, okay. And she said it was like this blue jeans, like flannel, like a trucker hat. And I was like, all right, I'll see what he's up to. I know you gotta, do the thing. And and then there was no one in there. And I was like, all right, I must have left. You're good. And then like a week later, someone said the same thing. And I was like, this is the second time somebody has said that there's a man, blue jeans, red flannel, and a trucker hat on there. And we couldn't find anything like on the cameras. So I always thought there was a ghost in there. I always thought that there was someone like a space apex that like never made his flight, died there or whatever,
Just
and just
trapped in there.
just haunting the place. I don't know. But like nobody, like I'm the only person that people ever told. So like I tell this to like Sergeant Wisman, and he's just like, I don't know, man. Like it's like nobody believed me, but like like
Oh my
it's like
god.
yeah.
I feel like that place definitely had lots of ghosts in it. Like it had to. There was too many weird stuff that always happened either at PAX, and I feel like a lot of weird stuff followed me when I went to cargo. Like on weekends when trucks would drop off like pallets and stuff. I remember this couple. I don't I don't know what their deal was. They were weird. So I know a lot of times truck drivers will travel with either their wife or like bring a kid with them and like some pets because it's a long ride. So this guy had his wife with him, and they come in to drop off some cargo, and she asked, she was like, "Hey, do you guys have showers here?" And I'm like, well, there's a bathroom. I was like, the shower's inside of our bathroom, but I mean, it's a weekend, I guess. If you absolutely need to shower, I can go ask my supervisor if it's cool. And she was like, okay, cool. Supervisor's like, yeah, they can use a shower. It's Saturday. There's nobody here. And then she comes back. She goes, is it a co-ed shower? And I said, no. The men's shower's in the men's bathroom, women's shower's in the women's bathroom. And so she gets real quiet and she's like, so we can't go in the shower together. And I'm like, no, I would advise you not to do that in our place of business where we also have to use the restroom. And she goes, okay. And then she disappears, and her husband disappears. And all I'm thinking is, I really don't want to go in the bathroom, and there's two old truck drivers just banging in there. I can't handle that today. So like, I was so scared and I had to pee, and I was like, somebody else go in there and please make sure there's only one person in the bathroom. And thank God she was the only one in there. She was so adamant about showering together. And I was like, no, 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 I can't do it. Ew. It was gross. Man, that place, McGuire was. And like before I got to cargo, a truck driver had died in the ETV system. I remember that. I was still at PAX when that happened. Yeah, I was
What
still
year
at
was that?
PAX, and that was in like 2010, maybe into 2009, something like that. I don't know the specifics because I wasn't over there and nobody would talk about it. Um, but I remember hearing that a truck driver had fallen in the ETV system and died. And I don't know if like he tripped and fell. I don't know if he had a heart attack and fell. But it's the reason why like nobody was allowed to just like wander. I don't know why there was a truck driver back then, anyways.
What do you say?
Oh. So he said he had a heart attack and fell, and then tried to crawl away, and the ETV like ran him over.
Ooh.
He was still alive. I forgot he worked at ATOC. He has all the juice. He has all the juice. Oh my
My God.
gosh, that's wild. Yeah, that happened right before I went there to cargo. And every time I was in the ETV and it would stop suddenly, I would just in my head think it was his ghost in there. Which is probably really wrong to think. But I always felt like
Mm,
that.
yeah, that's a no for
That's
me. I do not.
sad.
Hell no. I ain't trying to be around that. Anyway,
Mm-mm-mm-mm-mm.
we've been
There was
going
a
for
kid when I got to McGuire who was interested in ghosts. Oh wow.
oh yeah, I love ghosts. That's kind of what the last thing I wanted to ask you about before we bounce because it's been about 2 hours. In all your travels,
Yeah.
what are the creepy things that you've seen? I guess it could be ghost related or it could be like supernatural related, could Wendigos, whatever. Anything creepy.
Okay. So I don't know. This I think this definitely counts. Um, funny enough, still New Jersey. The house that I lived in was in Pemberton, and it was a two-story home. It had a basement. It was an older home, kind of creaky, but in the price range and seemed like a big enough house for us. In the basement of this house, hanging on the wall, was this gold crucifix, just like chilling on the wall. And when we first moved in and saw it, my brain was like, I'm not touching that. Uh, Somebody put that there for a reason, not touching it. That house felt weird though. Did you ever get sleep paralysis in there? I used to get sleep paralysis in there all the time. And sometimes I'd be sitting on the couch and I would see somebody walk down the stairs and go past me when I was at home just completely alone. And I thought that was weird. But anytime somebody came over and they touched that little gold crucifix, something bad happened. Every time. Every
Mm.
single time. Uh, my mom came over one time and she'd seen it before and she's always like, why do you guys still have this thing hanging up here? And she went and grabbed it and took it off. And I was like, ooh, she probably put that back. I wouldn't have touched that. And she's like, whatever. She puts it back, and I want to say a couple weeks later, she shows up back to my house because my mom was a truck driver and she drew a refrigerated truck. So it has like the big like system on the front that keeps everything cold. Well, she stopped at a truck stop to like go to the bathroom or something, and her truck just caught on fire after she touched that crucifix. Yeah. And then bad luck for me, she had to move into my house until they fixed her truck. So boo on
Oh,
both sides.
it
And
followed
then we
her.
had, yeah, it followed her. And then we had a buddy come over. He's drunk. And they go in the basement. And he's like, oh, this thing's always hanging down here. And he, again, takes it off the wall. Not too long after that, he ran into a lot of troubles, which led to him being put out of the military. And it's been very rough. That thing and that house just had weird juju. And I think that's the weirdest thing that I've seen with my own eyes. But then when we were stationed in Germany, the which one? Oh yeah, the doorknob that just flew off the door. Yeah, in the same house, the doorknob just flew off of the door. No reason.
I cannot say that.
That house was haunted, definitely. But in Germany, Bitburg was close to Spangalum, and it's supposed to be like on the list of like one of the most haunted bases. And it's closed down now. But when we were there, it was only open for the high school and I think an elementary school. And a lot of the students were saying they could see people in the windows of the buildings that were shut down and the lights turn on and off. But I absolutely think it was probably like weird Nazi ghosts. Like, I have no idea. But a lot of the kids were like, we see things in the window when we're in class and the curtains will move. Nope. Mm-mm.
I ain't about that life.
Thank
I got
you.
till daylight here, and
I don't
we're still in the day. I'm safe.
If it's a nice ghost, I feel like I could do it. Can't do it. It's scary.
That's fair.
Nope. Yeah. That I hope whoever moved into that house in New Jersey left that gold crucifix down there though. 'Cause
I hope they didn't sell it.
nope.
Well, anyway,
I
this
wouldn't
has
be
been
surprised. I wouldn't be surprised.
yeah. We'll have a part 2 of this at some point after you move. At some point after, I'll let you know next time I'm down in the Texas. I will totally hang. Is there anything else you want to say before we bounce and end it?
No, I really appreciate you letting me come on and talk with you. And I need to get with you about this crypto. I have
Yes.
so many questions that I know that you can answer. So I will be doing that shortly.
Yeah, I'll send you a couple of videos, one on how to buy it and the other on why to invest in it. And then show it to your hubby as well, and I'll go in.
Yes. I'm excited.
All right, cool beans. Thank you so much for coming on. Everyone, thank you for joining. Everyone say bye-bye to Dashi. Bye-bye, Dashi. Bye-bye, DaLesha. I'll catch you all later. Bye-bye.
Bye.